What's up, you guys? I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and today we'll talk about my journey in discovering fire. Just in case you're not familiar with the acronym, FIRE, or F-I-R-E, stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. It's kind of a goal that I have, not necessarily working towards maybe retiring early, but certainly towards the FI part, the financial independence. It's really the basis for this whole channel, is to educate about topics on personal finance, and hopefully help other people have more information to use to make their own decisions in trying to improve their financial life and achieving financial goals. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun to talk about sort of how I got on this track. One, hopefully it's going to be interesting, and then two, of course, I'll be talking a lot about different resources that I picked up along the way that could be of use to you. Some of these are no longer there. But even those, if you've been a part of this kind of FIRE movement or in the personal finance space for a while, then there might be a bit of nostalgia too, if you were reading or checking out those sources of information back in their heyday. So I suppose I should start with where I was introduced to money in the first place, and that would have been, as a kid, I was fortunate to have an allowance. I don't remember exactly how much it was. I think it was the equivalent of, $2 or $3 in Mexican pesos when I was growing up. And I was also fortunate to have parents that provided a really good example when it comes to personal finance. They taught me right off the bat about saving by giving me a piggy bank. And I do remember putting change in it and saving in the piggy bank for a while. And then at some point, though, I did choose to break that piggy bank and spend that on something, probably a toy. I was pretty small. I'm not really sure what I did with that. But that was my first introduction to, money, and then also into savings. Then as I got a little bit older, I got introduced to the idea of investing, where my father said that he would set up a little brokerage account, let me select a stock, and then see the progress of that stock over time. I don't remember what happened. That never actually ended up taking place, which is fine. It still kind of got the bug in my ear, the idea about investing and then watching those returns over time. So at that time, I was probably around 13 or 14 years old. And around that time, my father pushed me to do another thing which I find incredibly valuable. I really am grateful that he pushed me to do that, and that was for me to get a job. So around the time that I got my learner's permit and then my driver's license, you could get them pretty young. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I think I got my learner's permit around 15, my license at 15 and a half, and I got a job over the summer at a pizza joint as a dishwasher. And so seeing kind of what my paychecks were like from working, a day at the pizza place doing dishes, and then also seeing how much of that I could spend just on, having lunch during my breaks, even with the employee discount. I really got a better sense of what a dollar's worth, really, what it takes to earn a dollar and how easy it is to spend one. So that was really, really big. Continued that job the next summer. I moved up a little bit and worked in the kitchen. I think the wage was slightly better, but still, I got a good sense of hard work, what it's like to have the fast pace of work in a kitchen, and then again, just the value of a dollar. And I thought that was really, I can't thank of enough for that experience, even though at the time I probably had different opinions, right? But looking back, I really appreciate it. Throughout college also, this set me up with the trend of being willing to go out and get a job somewhere. So while I was an undergrad, I worked at the writing center, helping people with their essays. And then also I got summer jobs. I had an aunt who lived out in Kentucky, who was gracious enough to host me for the entire summer. Can't thank her enough for that. It was really, really great of her. Not only that, but she lent me the use of a car as well, so I could get to and from work. She actually hooked me up with an internship at a supply chain management company. So that was really, really good experience. At the beginning, of course, because I was sort of hired because, of her, they didn't really trust that I would be able to do anything, but over time they learned that I was actually capable, and I was able to be a little bit more helpful to the organization by the time that the summer was over. Then the next summer I got back into food service. I needed to find another job, and so I found a job as a server at a country club nearby. And it was a no-tipping country club, although some members broke the rules, but the wages were decent. This was back in, 2004 or so, and they were paying $10.50 an hour to start, so things went pretty well there. I enjoyed my time there. Certainly learned about how stressful it can be and how fast-paced it can be to earn that kind of a wage. And throughout all this time, I would generally, not spend the paychecks as soon as they came. I would save them. So just like when I was a kid and I'd learned how to save with the piggy bank, then I would save my wages for a time. But invariably, at some point, I would find a way to blow them, right? So that it didn't last forever. I would save, and then blow, just waste it all during the school year kind of thing. So I graduated college. This was back in 2006, and I'd applied to graduate schools, but I wasn't quite ready to go to grad school right off the bat. I think it was probably a good idea. I needed a little bit of time off in the real world, and I got a job. Well, I applied for some different places. I looked at Credit Suisse and then also at Vanguard over in Charlotte. I ended up getting a job more locally at a nonprofit place that helped people with their debt, with credit counseling, a budget, and a debt management plan to help get their debt paid off. So it was really kind of a sales job, but thankfully all of the traffic was inbound, so I didn't have to make any outbound cold calls. There were all warm calls coming in, people looking for help, and in many cases, even though it might not be the most efficient way to help them, considering that they probably wouldn't get help any other way, just kind of given like their discipline and behaviors, it was a heck of a lot better than them not making the call. So I still feel pretty good about that, and maybe providing some education, giving them some insight on what their budget would look like. But of course, while I was doing this, I learned a lot about finances for myself. And I started to think about how, well, I'm helping all these people with their finances and getting them out of debt. But at the same time, I was often being relatively irresponsible with my own finances. I'd been getting all these over the limit and overdraft fees on credit cards. Yeah, I wasn't ready for credit cards when I first got mine. And I just was not good with my own money. And so this pushed me to really take a look at my own life and shape up. And in fact, I did. So moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and we laid out a really good budget. And frankly, given how poor I'd been with my finances beforehand, she was kind of taking a risk and, kind of setting up house with me. But luckily, I shaped up. And not only that, but she was really on board with being frugal as well, and getting our finances in order together as a household. So I was able to save over $10,000 in a relatively brief period of about maybe 13 or 14 months. And my salary at that time, I think, was around $26,000 or $27,000. So that was pretty amazing. And some of the things that helped me get along in doing that at the time were early personal finance blogs. So, I don't know if you have been reading personal finance blogs for a long time, but if you have been, some of these names will be familiar to you. So there was Get Rich Slowly, which I loved because this whole, get rich quick scheme thing never appealed to me, right? Obviously, it doesn't work. For a long time before, the blog was sold and they had, new writers come in, and it wasn't really the original author. Get Rich Slowly was a really great blog. I think J.D. Roth is the guy that did it. Then there's some other more sort of entertaining ones. There was one called Punch Debt in the Face. It was about this kid who had a bunch of student loans, I think. He was always talking about punching Sally Mae in the face and getting rid of his student loans and, getting his life together. And I think he had these fun little comics. Hopefully I can find some to put up on the screen for you here. It was a great little blog, just entertaining, kind of watching someone get their financial act together and being able to feel part of something where I'm doing that in my own life too. And there was a guy called Debt Kid. Unfortunately, his blog is no longer live anywhere, but he got into big trouble day trading. I don't know if you remember back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there really was kind of a fad of people trying to get rich day trading. E-Trade had come about and everybody was getting in on that. And now it's probably like what now is with crypto. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to mess with crypto and get rich. It was the same kind of thing, and it unfortunately didn't work out very well for many people, just as it's not working out very well for many people with crypto, with all the rug pulls and the fraud. With the day trading, it was just people didn't know what they were doing. It's very risky, and they didn't have proper risk management. Like, they just didn't have the education, right? So this guy lost, I think, up to $300,000. Some of it his money, but also a lot of it his mother's. It was really a bad situation, but he was trying to right the ship and pay her back. So it was really interesting to follow his progress along. There were many more. If you can think of any cool ones that are still out there, especially with their old content, do let us know in the comments below. The only other one I can think of right now is called 5 Cent Nickel. Just remember it being just a stalwart blog with, good financial advice generally, and solid content. Over time, nothing that really kind of jumps out at me and makes me go, wow, that was amazing. But just good content that kept me feeling part of something, that kind of kept the motivation going for me to continue to be frugal. So I was reading all of these blogs throughout graduate school, and during grad school, of course, my income was $1,400 a month. Tuition was paid for though, so that did cover rent and all of my basics, and then I had savings, and I was often able to continue to add a tiny bit to my savings, and then also a little bit to my investment accounts. I did open up an E-Trade account, but what I opened was a Roth IRA, and I'd started investing at that time. So again, going back, thank you, Dad, for giving me the idea about investing, talking about your own investments. Then I got started at a relatively young age as well. Not huge sums, but still. Then in 2010, I left graduate school, had a master's, and got a job at the company that I've been with ever since in the fall of 2010. And my salary was really not that much higher as a starting salary than what I'd been earning at the nonprofit. And you can imagine the economy still hadn't really improved all that much. By 2010, I had no experience. I really had no idea what I was doing. I applied for all these financial advisor jobs, and I'm not a salesman. I don't have a network, so it wasn't a good fit. I wouldn't have wanted to sell to family anyway, but it all worked out. So I ended up getting a job doing client support for this company. Essentially that meant maintaining data for the clients in proprietary software, picking up the phone, and helping send out trade confirms. It was actually a pretty cool job. And even though the starting salary was quite low, they've been very good to me along the years, and roles have changed, and it's really been a great career at the company, and I continue to be very happy working for them now. But in any case, I had this new job, and I was coming out of grad school. I did have some student loans I had to pay, and it was kind of funny. I'd only gotten those student loans because they were 0%, and I put the money into a high yield savings account to earn the arbitrage. But what happened is, when I stopped going to school, there was a long time before I was able to finally find a job. Many months actually. It was pretty tough. And so those funds helped me to get there. Also a little bit of assistance from family and selling some assets. So really this job that I got couldn't have come any sooner. So I came out of that with some student loan debt that I had to pay back. So of course this whole punch debt in the face, taking care of the Sallie Mae loans thing, that was really fun. So I got that taken care of relatively quickly because I still knew how to save the bulk of my income. In this case, diverting those savings over to paying off the student loans. And then I did need to get a new car. I probably spent too much relative to my income on that car. I don't necessarily regret it though. It was a great vehicle, and I kept it for about 10 years, so I think it was definitely worthwhile. I got it used, so that was still smart. I paid $25,600 for a 2010 Acura TSX. I think I got it in early 2012, and I paid that off relatively quickly. That didn't necessarily make financial sense because I had a very low interest rate, so I could have earned more in the markets and just paid the minimums, but I really did not like having my overhead be so high, which I laugh at now because my rent now is way more than all of my overhead from back then. But then again, my financial position is different now too. I made those big sacrifices 10-12 years ago, and those have helped to put me in a much more comfortable position now. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. Anyway, so just as before, if I had a concrete goal, then I'd be able to achieve it, and quite efficiently. So paid off those student loans in no time, paid off the car in no time. But I never got a real goal for the future until I discovered Mr. Money Mustache. So I don't know if you guys know of him. There's a guy named Pete. And, he invented this character, Mr. Money Mustache, and wrote a blog. And this character was sort of a Renaissance man, kind of do-it-yourself, jack of all trades, very frugal, stoic, focusing on the things that really matter in life. And he just laid out kind of this really great sort of philosophy for life, and then also the simple math of early retirement. So this is the blog that changed everything for me. I was like, wow, this is really something achievable. I've been saving some towards my future, but now I have really something exciting that I can work towards, and that was financial freedom at a relatively early age. And he showed that the more that you save, the faster you can get to financial independence, not just because you're putting more away into investing, but because your lifestyle is less expensive, right? The higher a percentage of your income that you're able to save means a lower percentage of your income is required to support your lifestyle. So on both ends, it makes the whole path much, much quicker. If you're able to save 60, 70, percent of your income, you're gonna get to FIRE relatively quick. Pretty incredible. You don't have to have this 30, 40 year, 45 year working career, say from 20 to 65. The wide range of outcomes are available to you depending on how bad you want it and what kind of a lifestyle you're able to find happiness in. Because definitely he's not about being so frugal that you're unhappy and you're really missing out, right? That's not what his blog is all about. It's really about just the things that matter and not being wasteful also. There's kind of an environmentalist bent to it too, which I like as well. That's one of the reasons I'm relatively minimalist. Also, I find it a lot less psychologically heavy to just have, again, less overhead, less stuff, just less. It's just a lot, I don't know, feels lighter to me, and I like that. So definitely Mr. Money Mustache. Like, I've read basically every single blog. There's a ebook out there somewhere that you can download that's kind of a compilation of all of his blog entries. But yeah, really good stuff. Just to start from the beginning and go forward, really, really awesome. At that time, I also discovered some other blogs that were popular, like Go Curry Cracker. This guy Jeremy and his wife Winnie, who've since retired early and traveled around the world with a toddler. Really crazy, very, very cool stuff, paying very low taxes at the same time. Then retired by 40. He succeeded in his goal and then moved out to Longmont near Mr. Money Mustache. Living a Fi, which has this Dr. Doom character, these great comics, man. Really, really a cool blog. Not many posts, but a really, really cool blog. And then, of course, the Frugal Woods, which were neat because I was in New Hampshire working, and the Frugal Woods were just south of me in Cambridge, Mass. So just a short drive away. Never met them or anything like that, but it was just cool that they're nearby, also working on this FIRE journey, making all this progress and sharing it with the world. Then there's also some great podcasts that I discovered. I would often just sit out on my porch, take it easy, maybe, enjoy a cigar and some iced tea, and then listen to these podcasts. So there was Paula Pence Affords Anything. I think she's still going, but she's had some great interviews over the years. One of my favorite is a two-parter with a guy named Andrew Hallam, Hallam. He really just does a great job of talking about a whole lot of topics. I don't know. I can't recommend that. That was probably my favorite 2 episodes that she's ever done, I think. Then, of course, there was Choose Fi, which was, I enjoyed every now and then. It was kind of spotty on whether or not I liked the content, and they've become a lot more, I don't know, I don't love it that much anymore, but there's some good episodes. And then, of course, the Mad Fientist as well. He's got some great blog posts, some great interviews, and podcasts. In particular, his analysis of sort of Roth versus traditional IRAs, really, really good. And then many, many books. So in my free time, I would find time to also read books on personal finance, books like The Millionaire Next Door, which I own. It's up on my bookcase up there, ready to be given to someone who's interested in financial independence. And then also, of course, The Wealthy Barber. I think that's a Canadian book, very interesting. The Wealthiest Man in Babylon, also, or is it Richest Man in Babylon? That's also a good book with short stories, but very impactful. And then even though none of his real estate shilling and classes and all this stuff is pretty gross, but the book Rich Dad Poor Dad still has some useful ideas in there, I think. So that's Robert Kiyosaki. But again, yeah, like the book has some interesting ideas, grain of salt, and then anything else he talks about, not for me. So, having all of these resources, also the Mr. Money Mustache forums to be a part of a community that's talking about financial independence, retire early, really intelligent people with backgrounds in all kinds of different parts of industry, sharing information, really, really helpful. There's also the Bogleheads out there. They're much more conservative, of course, more traditional retirement, fat fire kind of thing, so not so much my bag. And then some Reddit communities like Lean Fire, of course. And we talked about the different levels of fire in a previous video. But yeah, all of these things have kind of helped me to feel like I'm not alone in this thing and I'm part of something. And it really keeps my perspective on sort of the FIRE mindset rather than on the mainstream mindset, which of course is much more consumeristic, really, really different. So I find it helpful to kind of keep steeped in all of this stuff along the journey. But very important, again, it's not about being so frugal that I'm not enjoying my time along the way. That would be a huge mistake. The whole idea is to architect a way to continue one's enjoyable lifestyle while no longer having to work in the traditional sense, right? We might still do things to earn money, but it will be from a position of strength, and whereas voluntary is not necessary in order to maintain. So that's an incredible thing that's even achievable. I mean, right? I think it's awesome. So yeah, I don't know. Those are the resources. That's kind of my path. Let me know, what resources have been helpful to you in your path in the comments below. Hopefully you found this entertaining. If you did, if you liked the video, hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.